Hello there. My name's Ray Lewis and I'm a local marine environmentalist. Who's fairly keen in the Bayside area and thinking about COVID-19 and people being locked in at home, and so many of our friends who go to the beach so often are worried about it these days. I thought that if I did a series of interviews on this mobile phone, and I can tell you, interviewing on a mobile phone isn't that easy, but if I did a few interviews with people who are reasonably well known and committed to the environment and those other works, that it might be good fun and it might give us a chance, if they're done in a natural, easy style, to sort of relate to them in a sort of socialising way, and also feel for a little while that we're outside as well. And maybe they're two good things. So I decided to call it, as you'll know from the titles, COVID-19 Cabin Fever series. So I hope you have fun and you enjoy them. Worth trying anyway. Bye for now. Here this morning to interview Mike Meyer of the Sandy Beach Headquarters, and as you can see, serving takeaway coffee only, and everyone's nicely social distancing. Well, I'm here this morning to interview Mike Myers. I saw me film outside there a bit to give you an idea of the environment. And Mike's been the proprietor here at the Sandy Beach Headquarters for 30 odd years, I'm not too sure. He's an ex-footballer as well. He's a Sandringham boy, and he's brought a great deal to this special place. So special in place, in fact, that many people come here and value what was done over those many years. So what I'd like to do is just ask Mike a few questions about what happened, how he built it, and the ambience and the feng shui and everything of this wonderful Sandy Beach Headquarters, which is down at the bottom of Jetty Road at Sandringham, just near the Sandringham Yacht Club. And ask Mike, what's the story behind it all?
Ray, the story's a long one. It starts in 1916, back when you were probably a boy, when a well-known local by the name of Charles Kiefer built this shed, which was then right on the water's edge. And it's a magnificent old building. Over the years that I've had it, and I've been here now for 37 years, we've been very sure not to change anything fundamentally about the dear old shed. It's absolutely full of history. It's been a meeting place on the foreshore for all those years, and quite unlike the other meeting places like yacht clubs in particular, because it's a really egalitarian place. It's a come as you are. You might have the arse out of your pants wearing a wetsuit. You might have a dog just come in from a stand-up paddleboard, fishing, whatever, and this is a place where people feel comfortable. So back in about 1983, I think it was, when I bought it from a couple of characters by the name of Hank and Unc. It's another story in its own right, or many stories. I first set it up as a windsurfing school, a retail establishment, believe it or not, selling water sports equipment, and then in more recent days would become a cafe, which we prefer, I should say, to call it kiosk, because that's more befitting the environment down here. Its original.
Yeah, Mike, wasn't this a boat shed, as I recall, or something like that years ago? Yeah, again.
Yes, Ray, it was a boat shed. It's had many guises over the years, but when Charles Kiefer built it 4 years ago, it was definitely a boat shed. When I bought it from those gentlemen I mentioned, Hank and Unc, they were also running it as a boat shed. In those days, unfortunately, the business was insolvent, the shed was dilapidated, and I'd always had a look at it and thought that'd be a magnificent place for a windsurfing school, and that was the reason I chatted to those two chaps back in '83 and bought it from them.
And the sea wall was just out the front here, and the water was just out there in those days, wasn't it?
Yeah,
right out front.
Yeah. I'll talk about that.
Well, yeah, keep on going.
Yeah. When I bought it back in '83, the high water mark was much closer to the shed than it is now. In the interim, it's retreated about 150 metres. But a fascinating story is that back in the 1940s, the boats that were rented here, clinker-hulled rowing boats, were stored up where we're filming now in racks, and there, right behind you, there was a lamppost, if you like, attached to the top of which was a steel cable as part of a flying fox. So the boats then would be taken off the racks, left and right as we sit here now, connected to the harness on the flying fox, and believe it or not, the proprietors then would give you a push and the flying fox would fly overhead and out through doors above the main doors as they exist now, and the boats would hit the drink somewhere between here and the other end of the flying fox, which was a lamppost at the start of the Sandringham Pier.
Mike, I noticed that the walls, both downstairs where we came up, but the light was too strong to film there, and this top area, which is rather private and really nice, is just adorned with spectacular old prints that take us back to those early days. I thought it might be nice if you wandered along a couple and just told us what they were about.
These prints came from the Sandringham Historical Society, Ray, and also from Graham Disney, who everybody in Bayside knows well and thinks very fondly of. This shot here, which is headed Shark 1949, shows a bunch of 5 professional fishermen, 4 of them Italians, and second on the right, a chap with the name of Billy Hughes. And that's actually a great white, a very big one, that was brought up here back in 1949, as I mentioned. It's a magnificent shot back in the days when smoking was all the go, as you can see with the 2 chaps, the Italians on the left and right, and I believe the fishing down here was very rewarding. They did particularly well.
Any others in particular?
I'll move this. Another shot here, Ray, is of Hampton Beach here in 1914, just after the First World War. Here's a digger on the water's edge. And this is before the Sandringham Yacht Club was in its current position, which of course is up there on the other side of the pier. In those days, the Sandringham Yacht Club is mid-photo there. This would be Saturday morning sailing, a bunch of enthusiasts on the water's edge, a yacht going out, and in the background is the original yacht club down here, which wasn't the Sandringham Club, but the Port Phillip Yacht Club. That was burnt down in 1935. You can see it there just at the start of the pier, and I believe back in the days when both clubs were operating at the same time, they had competitions, obviously sailing ones, but would you believe it, they also had tug-of-war competitions. This is a fantastic shot, Ray. I was so delighted when I found it. I found it amongst a montage of photos in the Hampton Sailing Club. But here, this is 1946, and this is the building we're in. The original boat shed, as I mentioned, Charles Kiefer built, and as you can see here, the high water mark came right to the seawall. The shark that I mentioned earlier, the great white, was dragged up on this boat ramp here. Now, if we look above the main doors of the shed, the boathouse, you can see a cable coming out to which is attached a harness, and that's the cable that joined up to a lamppost 150 metres away at the start of the Sandringham Pier. And the boats that were stored upstairs, and there's one, there's another, were ferried onto the water via that flying fox, and they would land on the drink, hopefully the right way up, somewhere between the shed and the start of the Sandringham Pier. Another interesting thing to note here was, being after the war, these ladies here, ladies there, a mystery lady you might just be able to see up at the top of the boat shed, they wanted to sail yachts, unsurprisingly. They went to the local yacht clubs with a view to signing up, joining as members and racing yachts, but as was the thing of the time, they were giving short shrift, so they decided to buy those two sheds there, and out of that came the Victorian Ladies Yacht Club.
Good for the girls.
Good for the girls, absolutely indeed.
So, okay, Mike, what's the story behind the lease now, after all those years?
Yeah, the story behind the lease, Ray, is that the first lease started in 1983. It's up for renewal now. Council has agreed to a new lease for the period, so we're particularly happy about that, of course. The sea originally, Ray, came to the seawall here, where your lovely wife is sitting there, Beth. And that great white that we spoke about upstairs was dragged up right where the gate is there now. That was where the boat ran. I believe someone unfortunately drowned there many, many years ago. So the high water mark now is 150 metres from the seawall.
Thanks, Mike. Dogs and all, extras and all, it's been great talking with you, and I hope that the next 9 years of your lease are as happy as the last 9 years, and that we get to see a lot more often, because this place is truly, truly valued by our local Bayside people. So once again, thanks very much.